Now, a subscriber asked me this question, and in all honesty, this is going to be a very quick video, but I'll space it out the best I can. And it's which cosmology is bigger, Transform or DC when it comes to cosmology? Let's begin. So we really have to talk about what cosmology is. It's pretty much how the universe is made up and just about the dimensional levels of it, if you will. So let's start off with DC here. Now, the reason why I'm starting off with DC is because they have so many retcons, but the Death of Metal event kind of fixed it by merging pre-crisis, post-crisis, and New 52 dash Rebirth. So it kind of just put it all together. And we know that DC has infinite multiverses, or sorry, not infinite multiverses, infinite universes, but they're finite in length, meaning that the universe pretty much ends at a certain point here. However, we do know that in DC there are infinite possibilities, infinite measures, and their size is actually stated to be in 11 dimension. So they're 11D when it comes to size. 11 space operable dimensions. And these dimensions would include various things, such as the overvoid, where Perpetua and, the monitors can reside. It's actually beyond Mitsopidalix plane, and it's actually beyond the fifth dimension, which is beyond Mitsopidalix plane. You also have things like the God's Head or the Sphere of Gods, where it's basically the birthplace of all magic, and it's a non-physical plane. You could probably say it's an abstract plane, or at least a magical plane, or maybe some type of energy-like plane, but we do know that it's not physical. So with all that being said here, what does this really mean here? This means that DC does have an 11D space orbital plane, like I said earlier. And you have to remember the information I am using is sort of like, it's kind of mixed and matched here, because you have to remember DC does retcon a lot of things. They also have other dimensions. They even have their own Yggdrasil, the World Tree, which holds multiple universes. And we do have to remember DC has their own version of the Norse and Greek gods as well. So Olympus, Asgard, and even areas where, the quintessence resides could all be connected to this as well. So you have all these dimensions here. You have, again, the fifth dimension, which was where World Forger resided and where he pretty much slammed Superman into that moon here. And he was actually going to create another multiverse to replace the new one so that Perpetua can remain trapped. Now, you might say, why do I say DC universes are not infinite? This is because they have an end. They pretty much hit the source wall, okay? So with them pretty much having a limit, or pretty much at least like you could say a dead stop, if you will, this would mean that, DC has a finite, length to their universe. Some universes are infinite, some universes are finite to those effects. However, this has to do with the bleed. Now, we go to the bleed here, and the bleed is pretty much the substance of all life in the DC multiverse. Pretty much a simple drop of it is a reality itself here. Diving through it is reality itself. The bleed kind of sits kind of like in between the multiverse, and I hope I read that correctly. It's like in between the multiverse. It's like outside of the multiverse, but it's like another barrier passing it. So you really can't make another universe without using some essence of the bleed. So the Darkest Knight actually creating a whole new multiverse, he would have had to use at least a portion or at least some elements of bleed in it, because the bleed is creating life itself, and he was creating life from it, okay? And by the way, this is where the magic pretty much resides. You see where Dr. Fate and stuff, yeah. We also have the Speed Force, which is another connection point between the entire DC multiverse, or omniverse, if you will. And then you have other dimensions like where the Book of Infinite Pages resides. I think it's called Limbo, where, nothing and everything kind of exists in a single congruent point. You also have light and darkness dimensions as of Dark Crisis. You have darkness's dimension and you have light's dimension, where both basically all evil and all good are born. So in conclusion, DC as a whole size in their cosmology is around the 11 space operable dimensions. They're basically 11D. That's actually pretty freaking powerful. Now, I know I'm not saying everything, but that is because some of the stuff has been retconned over the years. You guys have to understand here, some of this information has been retconned, But then you have to wonder what's been retcon at the same time. But needless to say, let's really talk about Transformers here, and I'll give my full-on answer here. Now, with Transformers, you have to look at, well, you know what? Let's really just dive into it. They're 17 to 21 space optimal dimensions. That's how big they are. That's how much, size is within their cosmology. And yes, they don't have, I would say they don't have the same, I guess you could say godly bracket or whatever as, things like DC and Marvel. By godly bracket, I mean characters like the Living Tribunal, the Spectre, so on and so forth. What they have are the Primes, Unicron, and Primus. However, what we do know is that these universes are infinite in size and length. So this is confirmed, I believe it was during the Unicron trilogy comics, however, or whatever. So these universes have always been infinite in size, infinite possibilities, infinite realities, just like DC. So the only difference is these universes don't have an end. They don't have a source wall. And there's even levels beyond them. You have the Megaverse, or, at least, where Vector Prime is able to go, at least into the Megaverse. And then beyond the Megaverse, you have an Omniverse. So kind of like DC, they have their own dimensionality. However, I would have to say Transformers might actually be, I'm not going to get into that. I'll get into that later. You have, all these dimensions and all these planes. For example, you have Primus and Unicron's respective dimensions of both chaos and order. Now, you see, their dimensions are way beyond what they created. They're literally you could actually say they're in the same league, or at least in the same retrospect, as both light and darkness. Okay, from a way, they have their own dimensions and their own realms. However, Unicron is just the pure concept of chaos, and Primus is the concept of, good. And he pretty much created all these Cybertronians with free will. So they're able to turn evil, and some of them are able to serve Unicron pretty easily here. And we also know that the multiverse in Transformers is just massively in size and infinitely growing. I would say the same as DC. However, we do know that it constantly gets destroyed, and it constantly gets blown up every now and, or it constantly just gets retconned every now and then. So saying that the DC multiverse or even Omniverse is infinite in size, it's very I guess you can honestly say it's very hard to say, because you have the comics, you have the movies, and you don't really know if they connect to each other. But if we do say that they do, pretty much like how the Marvel universe works, then yes, we would definitely say that. But let's say that for the sake of this video, because it makes it more interesting. And it actually makes them much more comparable to Transformers, because every reality, everything about Transformers, as I said in my How Powerful is the Transformers Verse video, everything's connected. Even the toy lines are connected, because Unicron actually is able to transcend the metaphysical plane and is actually able to harm the Transformers toy line. Ooh, excuse me. So you have all these elements. You can even add things like, Ben 10 to it, because Ben 10 is actually considered canon, or at least a part of the Transformers Omniverse, because he was visited by Vector Prime. We also know this because Kyber actually has Dino Transformers animated, or the Malgus universe's Grimlock sword. By the way, if you guys want to get my whole retrospect on the theory of what aliens are actually in Ben 10, because Vector Prime himself confirms that there are some Ben 10 aliens within the Transformers multiverse. Okay, so in the Transformers multiverse, my bad. But so let me know if you guys want that Ben 10 aliens in Transformers video, all right? But anyway, we reached the end here, and I would have to say Transformers is definitely a 17 to 21 brand dimension. Now, who's bigger? Now, remember, the answer I'm going to give is based on the information I was able to gather from both multiverses. And in all honesty, DC might have changed. They may actually be bigger. But from the information I've able to gather, DC is an 11D space optimal dimension. This includes the entire multiverse - omniverse. Meanwhile, Transformers is a 21 brand space operable dimension, including, the alternity dimension as well. I almost forgot to say that. These higher dimensions and these verses that pretty much are much bigger than DC. Now, if we went by universe size, I would definitely say the Transformers are much bigger because they have an infinite length to their universes. There's no end. However, due to the DC being an 11 brand space operable dimension, and with Transformers being a 21D space operable dimension, I would say Transformers wins the dimensionality argument. However, when it comes to the cosmic hierarchy, a part of the cosmology, I would say DC wins. However, if we're going simply by cosmology, basically how big their universes basically are, I would say Transformers takes that pretty much a lot. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think down below. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.